We're going to go ahead and begin this session. Welcome, everyone. My name is Carlton Hall. I am the founder of CHC, and with me is Cedric Hall. He will introduce himself in just a little bit, but we are extraordinarily grateful for everyone for showing up today, for making it your business to prioritize this session today. We are here as a part of the Delaware Coalition Development and Family Engagement Training Series, and it is our honor to have worked with our great friends in Delaware. I want to just thank Regina Johnson for all of her great leadership with respect to this, Shelley Roshak as well, and the extraordinary team that she works with for all the help and support that was required in order to make this training series possible. This is a continuation of a training that we have started last month. We came together and we had the opportunity of meeting with a number of leaders from across the state, some providers, those who are working at the state level, looked at the foundations of prevention and had some conversations about the public health approach and thought about how we might be able to engage with our communities much more effectively on behalf of families as we engage in this training. That's really what this series is all about. What I want to do is I want to take a half of a moment to share with you that uh, this is going to be the second training in the series, actually, of seven that we will be conducting. And you can see here on the screen the actual training topics and the dates that are associated with this. Um, Hopefully, this has been sent out and it has a save the date notification has been sent out to those of you who are on here. That is my assumption since you all are here. I'm assuming that you all would have received that as well as the invitation to this specific training. What I'm going to also share with you is that you'll be receiving additional invitations for the subsequent trainings that we have coming up. And as you can see, there's kind of a tight time frame associated with this. And so we're going to be spending some good time with each other and hopefully an opportunity for us to engage with each other, be able to learn with and from each other, and keep the energy of this kind of moving forward in a way that really helps to support this. What I will do before the end of this session is I will make sure that this flyer, which has the dates, is also sent out so that you can all, if you don't have this information, you'll be able to receive that as we continue to move forward. And so today's session, Cedric will get into some of the details of what specifically and concretely he's going to get into. But primarily, we're going to talk about strategies, right, for authentic engagement of youth and of communities. We're going to talk about some practical approaches, and hopefully, you will find ways in which these approaches will help strengthen and bolster the work that you all are doing in your various roles, regardless of kind of where you play a role here in the state. So I don't want to take a whole heck of a lot of time because I know there's a good bit of information that we want to get through and some conversations that we want to be able to have. Prior to me sharing and turning this over to Cedric, I wanted to provide an opportunity. Regina, I believe I saw you come on. Regina, if you're on, would you like to come on screen or and Mike, and if you have any words at all that you would want to start off with?
Hello. I think everyone knows me. We are trying to give you guys the series in order to help you with family engagement, youth engagement, and happy to be here.
We are even happier that you're here. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for your leadership and helping to organize and coordinate this. And we're looking forward to a very robust conversation and discussion with you all. This is the second, as I shared, and I'm very excited about all the trainings that we have planned for you, folks. I'm really happy and proud and honored, if you will, to be able to share that I have engaged national speakers from across the nation to be able to be a part of this training series. I am so thrilled for you guys. I can't contain myself. It's going to be a really, really awesome training series. Each of the trainings will be recorded. We're going to have opportunities for those who may not have been able to be here to be able to see those recordings. And if you have any other information with respect to that, we'll provide our information at the end. There's also going to be an opportunity for you to provide feedback to us. And so don't leave at the end of the training. We're going to have a slide that you're going to need to use just for a very quick survey instrument that we're going to ask you to fill out. So with that, let's get started. I want to introduce to some and present to others. Cedric Hall. Cedric is not only my son, who I am extraordinarily proud of, but I'm actually honored to be able to have him as part of this training delivery series that we have. Cedric has, among all his achievements, of which he will be able to describe his professional achievements to you. I want to give him opportunity to really be able to describe that as he does. But I want to share with you from my standpoint as to why I believe that he is so perfectly suited for this training series. He's traveled with me literally all over the world because he is a profound, profound expert in the engagement of youth, in the application of education, and doing this in every kind of community that you can identify and name, everywhere from working in Harlem to the hills and the hollers of Kentucky and everything in between. With respect to that, we've been in Vienna and are going to be working with young people from not only Africa, but also India as well. He brings an extraordinary range, but he brings an innovative approach towards addressing these issues, which we believe will be part of what it is that you might find of value as you try to apply it to the work that you do. And so, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I will come back to you all afterwards with a QR code. But I want to say thank you all for being here. Thank those of you who have been my partners in pulling all of this together for this. And Cedric, mostly thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. And I'm going to turn the mic over to you so you can take us into this.
And I appreciate that, man. Appreciate you. Love you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, all. If you're here on the East Coast anyway, good morning still for another 50 minutes or so. My name is Cedric Hall. It is a pleasure to be here with you. Some for the first time. Many, I've seen you in our first session. I've seen you in the works that we're doing in Delaware. So it is such a pleasure to be here in front of you all today. I am a career educator by career, by craft, by trade of what I do. I've had the pleasure of working all across, again, the country and doing a lot of international works as well in the Caribbean, again, we'll be going out into Asia and in Europe and doing some of that work as well. But when I'm not doing this in front of you all, as I've described to others, I am a principal. That's what I do. That is kind of what I do most of the Monday through Friday, if you will. I am a primarily been high school, but I also have an extensive amount of experience and training around schools, kindergarten through the 12th grade. And then in that work, also having to support college and higher ed as well. So I like to say that I have dedicated myself to becoming a subject matter expert in the human experience, I say from the age of 5 to 21. So when we converse today, we're going to talk not just from one specific lens or one platform, but we're going to talk about the youth dynamic overall. And we're also going to converse about families, right? And how to loop in our families and how to work with them. I know some folks here are family engagement specialists, some are in prevention, some are in education. So we're going to talk about how to connect and support youth as a whole. Our first session talked about adults understanding the importance and the value of youth voice and the adults kind of getting out of the way. Today, we're going to talk about how to activate that youth voice, right? Now that you've understood its importance, now that you are prepared with your team and your coalitions or the building of those coalitions to be able to have youth at the forefront, now that you're saying, okay, we're ready to pivot our execution approach on how we do programming and our initiatives and recruitment. Now that you're saying we're ready to do that, or those that are approaching that or in progress towards getting to that preparedness, today we're going to talk about what it means to actually then activate that youth voice, make it real, make them get the value out of it, and ultimately get the results that you want, which are supporting youth, getting them involved, getting messages across. All right. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to be here about 60 minutes or so, a little bit less than that. And then we're going to go on about the sunny day. In this presentation today, I'm going to be asking for some participation, right? I hesitated on doing the big breakout rooms, right, where we just kind of send you all there and kind of having to bounce around. So we're going to stay here in the main auditorium, if you will, for the whole session. But I'm going to ask for your participation. I'm going to ask for you to be in that chat. I'm going to ask for you to be bold, right, to unmute when the time comes to be able to share your experiences. I'm going to ask for volunteers to say, hey, in this session, unlike the last session, I'm asking for real world experiences. I'm asking for real world situations. I'm asking for real world scenarios. I'm going to be calling on volunteers to say, hey, what are you right now working with youth? Or where are you with this initiative with youth? Or think about a youth that you're working with and where do they fall in this? What went well? What didn't? I'm going to be asking for that. So if you can, just go ahead and if you say that, you know what, I understand it, just put got it in the chat that I'm going to ask you to be bold and that I'm going to ask you to be present and I'm going to ask you to really participate. Put got it in the chat. That lets me know that we're on task, we're on board, we're all on the same vibe together today. All right. I appreciate you. Thank you all. Appreciate you. See them coming in. I see them coming in. Fantastic. The word is out. We're about to have a good time. All right. So I'm going to share my screen, get the presentation on up here today, and we're going to get started and have some good conversation. All right. Am I sharing yet? Nope, not yet. There we go. All righty.
Perfect.
Good to go? We are good to go. So today, again, we're going to be conversing and talking about activating youth voice. Right now that we understand it's important and that it's in the ethos of what we have to do, it's got to anchor our work. In session one, I asked people whether young people feel heard or not. Right? We talked about, do they feel heard? What does it mean for them to feel heard? How can we identify if they're feeling heard? How can we reflect on ourselves and how we're presenting things for youth? Today, we're going to converse about and we're going to speak about now that we've understood that we need them to be heard, and now that we can identify what a youth may or may not be saying, now I'm going to give them an actual microphone or platform to make it real for them. The thing that we have to remember when conversing and working with youth is that unfortunately, unfortunately, and I don't have a statistical data point to put right behind this, so no one come jumping through the Zoom screen, right? But in my experiences and in my conversations with youth in almost 2 decades, usually they don't understand or feel that what is said is going to actually manifest in the real world, right? And or as they might say in IRL, in real life, right? So adults are good at saying, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And this is wonderful and this is fantastic and you're important and inclusivity and all the things. And then when it comes time to do it, we put a bunch of excuses in the way as to why it didn't. And the thing that I'm going to tell you in working with youth, you're not going to get too many chances to drop the ball or to not come through or to follow through. Your own children, that's something different, right? There's other things. They need you for those meals, they need you for entertainment, they need you for the love, the comfort, and the other stuff. But when you're working in a public space, whether it be schools or programming, when you say you're going to do a thing, it has to happen, or else you're going to put a major gap in the trust process between you and the youth. All right? You're going to put a major gap. The inverse of that is if you do exactly what we say we're going to do and we follow up, then what actually happens is you gain an immense amount of trust that then becomes ambassadorship, which then becomes your recruitment tool. All right. So we're going to continue to connect, we're going to continue to converse. And again, remember what we say has to show up in real life. So, a few norms. Listen, if you can have your camera on, cool. If not, we get it. We understand folks are in different places and we appreciate that. I don't see the chat, Carlton, so I'm just letting you know. So, if there's anything that pops up in the chat right away, just kind of flag and let me know. Okay. I'll check it when I say to kind of put the inputs if we need to, but I want to make sure that I'm good with the content. So, I'm going to kind of tag in with you with that. Okay, Carlton. Again, chat is in the main room. Keep some paper and some things handy. There's going to be moments when I'm asking for a volunteer to do a thing, but actually, I'm asking them to model what I'm wanting everyone else to do. So while a volunteer is doing a thing, the expectation for this presentation is that you two on the side be practicing what we're modeling together because you're going to have to then go do it in front of your youth and your people. So that's all right. And then lastly, the other thing is that, hey, again, jump in. Be bold, okay? Be vulnerable. Things that I want to converse about. I'm going to ask you to give examples of real world scenarios or situations with youth for a number of reasons that would take the whole presentation by themselves to explain, but really the crux of it is for legality purposes. We're going to refrain from using the first or last or any combination of fullness of names when talking about minors. If you want to reference them or put them in the chat, you can put initials if you want to personalize it. Sometimes I may ask if you feel compelled to do so because it makes it real for you. But we're never going to write out the full name, first or last, or any combination thereof of any minors in this session. All right. So I just want to make sure that we have that. If you want to personalize it for yourself with an initial, you can do that because that means something, but we're not going to spell out their full names for today. Again, that's the big educator brain in me. And when we're working with youth, these are things that are important to know, policies and legalities of such. So again, welcoming you back. We took care of that today. We're going to talk about how some things show up. For those that were here last time, we talked about some reflections over the last month. We're going to talk about where the voice gets stuck. I, Whether you've worked in schools or if you are a parent who has raised or support teenagers, you will find out very quickly that the hardest challenge of your day and the biggest hurdle is getting your teenager to talk to you about their day. You will ask them, "Hey, how was school?" As I, "Oh, what was that?" It was cool, right? There's this voice that gets stuck sometimes. Sometimes they don't feel comfortable. Sometimes they are distracted. Sometimes they're not understanding the primary objective in that moment, which is connection with you as an adult. But there are reasons why the voice gets stuck, and it's our job to remove those barriers and to encourage them to amplify and to really activate their voice. And we're going to talk about how to do that. We're going to also talk about kind of the ladder of how we show up and where we give positioning for youth to build that trust and to activate that voice. We're going to talk about where families come into that because I'm going to tell you right now, none of this happens well without home or some type of other stakeholder buy-in for the youth that's not necessarily just you. And then we're going to do again, I'm going to ask for a volunteer. We're going to do a real world case study activity. And then we're going to go ahead and end out with any questions if we have time for today. So last session, we talked about pop culture being the data. Talked about kind of what you see and what you hear. We talked about old school generation, put the game controller down versus new school generation, pick that controller up, right? We're talking, multi-million dollar college scholarships for digital platform. And now we've got universities that have undergraduate degrees in AI now that they're going to be launching in this next year, some last year. Pop culture, music, trends despite our economy or different things being in different places or fluxes, we're still seeing great abundance, whether it be in entertainment, whether it be in fashion and comedy and things of that nature. Pop culture is always one of the main drivers and indicators of direction of youth, well, society as a whole. We're all on Zoom right now versus some other platforms, and there's many, many video platforms, but pop culture, due to a pandemic, told us Zoom is the way. Some of us got to deal with Teams as well, but we're in a space despite all of the competition of video platforming because socially we've gotten behind a thing. Our pop culture tells us this is a thing. Zoom is now an adjective. Uber is now an adjective, right? We've put them into the ethos of our society. So pop culture is data. We talked about youth being heard and not managed, right? Not being told what to think or what to say or what to do or when to speak and how to speak, giving them guidance on that and putting ourselves as adults in a listening capacity far more than we put ourselves in a direction or director capacity. Making sure that we hold access, right? A trusted adult is often the biggest door a young person has. So if we don't open those doors, they don't have them open for themselves, or they're going to try to create their own rooms. And creating their own rooms and spaces without experience and guidance, we understand can lead to other issues and problems. And then lastly, and where we're going to pick up today, is voice becoming influence. The goal was never a young person who talks, it's one who moves people. I talk to you again. If we as adults say a thing and then we don't do it, we lose trust. But if we as adults say a thing and then do it, we don't just gain trust, but we gain ambassadors in a team. And that's where recruitment really happens. So, for anybody that was in the last session, if there's anybody in the last session, or think of a time, right? Think of a time where you actually had youth voice needing to show up. You asked for volunteers, you gave youth an opportunity to contribute in a meeting, you did something that gave voice an opportunity to show up from youth. Did a young person say something that changed what you did? Meaning you gave them an opportunity to speak, they spoke, and what they said changed what either you thought or what you did. Now, in that, I want you to score it. A three means yes. And they saw it. They know their words changed something. Meaning, as soon as that I say scholar because of education, but as soon as that youth or that scholar said something as an adult, I was like, oh my goodness, there's the epiphany, there's the thing. And if so, did you give them the recognition in the moment to let them know, like, hey, you said something that changed my adult perspective? Two means yes, but I did it quietly. It changed for me, but no real affect. I kept it to myself. I never shared it with them. But on the inside, it did something that I think was important, but I kept it to myself. Or one, not yet, right? I've not heard anything from anybody of youth status that has changed how I think or how I feel or what I did. Score it three, score it two, score it one. I'm going to see where we're at in the chat, and then we're going to go from there. So let's see.
I got a couple of threes coming in,
Yeah.
few threes.
So, you know,
I got a 2.5.
two. I like the
I
2.5.
got a three.
I like the 2.5. Threes. So we got a few folks saying that they're living in three. We got most folks living in three.
Threes.
I
We
appreciate the
got a
honesty.
two.
Got two.
Hmm.
All right, cool. So just because I want to have some fun, Jalen, either if you're comfortable speaking, if you want to unmute, you can do so. If not, put it in the chat. I'm wondering the point five. I'm just wondering the point five. Yes, I did it, but it's quiet, but maybe not so quiet. Talk to us.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling you was gonna pick on me.
Of course.
I almost didn't put the 2.5. No, so and sorry, we're at a field trip, so if it's loud.
No
But
apology needed.
I'm a high school basketball coach, so I'm very traditional in my coaching. And I realized a couple years ago that the girls just one day just were not taken. They just weren't taken to the communication style. So I asked them, gave them a safe space, asked them to give us honest feedback as coaches for things that we could improve on, if it's the way that we're talking, if it's what we're saying. It was right at the height of COVID. So they let us know that, some of them were dealing with challenges in the home. So us being reinforcing some things with a loud tone kind of shut them down versus being receptive. And for me, I received it. I let them know that I received it. I put 2.5 because it's humbling when you think you're doing what's best for the kid, or the scholar, and you think you're doing the right thing, and then they tell you, hey, actually it's not. That is something that's hard to digest when you have all best intentions at heart. So that's why I put a 2.5. But actually, some of them just reached out to me last week. They still think I'm the best, so we're good. But I literally use that in adults. I use it in the spaces that I'm in, to just give people space, because we're always taught growing up to treat people the way you want to be treated. And I've learned through the kids that you should treat them the way they want to be treated. So
Coach, thank you so much for that. Phenomenal and a phenomenal example. And I loved also the fact that it integrated academics and other things, sports and all the aspects of youth engagement. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for being on that field trip and the work that you are currently doing to support youth all at the same time and being here and being present. I can't speak enough. That's in volumes. Thank you very much for that. Anyone that answered three that wants to speak about what that meant for them, what the experience was. Why was it a three? Why was it that, what was the thing that the youth said that changed what you did or what you thought? And how did you let them know that it impacted you? I'm also good for cold calling, but I want to give an opportunity for anybody to jump up.
I was going to volunteer.
All right, here we go.
I was going to say I'll gladly go.
Go
It's
for it.
Christine.
Christine.
So this past week we had the honor of going to the CADCA conference in Orlando, and we had a youth that attended with us, and we were having a conversation at the table, and the youth actually got to be a presenter of one of the workshops, and we were all talking, and we were talking, and we were not including her in the talk collectively as adults at the table. And she said, "You guys aren't listening to me." And we all kind of stood back. And I reflected on that because I was like, you know what? You're right. We didn't. And that this is the whole purpose of why we're here. Please, please take the time and say what you need to say to us as a group. And that resonated with me because, even as a parent, I tend to hear what I want to hear and not what my children are saying to me. And I have to take a step back and get out of that mindset of, I don't want them to say what I want them to say. I want them to say what they need to say.
hmm Mm. Thank you. Thank you for that. And also thank you and Jalen and both of you touched on this idea of humility and the humbling that happens when youth advocate and put their voices up. Um, Before I say the next, anybody that shared a one, want to share any reflections on, how you feel you haven't been in a space where any youth have changed your mind or what you felt. Anybody with a one that wants to speak to that?
I'll go.
Go for
So
it.
I just kind of got into this space. I've only been working in it since March, and just kind of hearing what everybody's saying is kind of even humbling for me, just because I think I haven't been maybe as aware or as attuned to what, the youth around me has been saying, because, as adults, sometimes we're involved in our own space or what we think we're supposed to be doing, as opposed to being open and active listener and really kind of trying to hear what the youth is saying. And then from there, take that in, process it, and then say, okay, so this is how, I should respond, or how like I can make this change, and like really kind of listen to what they're saying. And like, we just think sometimes, oh, they're youth, like we just gonna push them to the side, or they don't know what they're talking about. And that I'm realizing right now that is the worst way of thinking. So this is like great for information for me to take in, to make sure that I'm more active and more present, and hoping to listen to and move forward with kind of positive change in these youth lives.
Khadija, thank you. Like, first of all, my cheeks hurt because, particularly as an educator, I remember doing youth work when these things happen. And I'm an educator and a teacher always, so it's almost like being in a classroom and you're seeing like the ideas come from out of the brain and into the space, right? And you also provided the beautiful bridge into us moving forward, right? For many of the ones, I didn't see the ones and look at the ones and say, oh, these people don't listen to kids. Not that at all. I think what we as adults often default to is being in this space of adult, child, Our job is to protect and to teach and to guide. We've had X amount of years longer. We know some things, they may not. We want to try to keep them from making mistakes or, support them in them, and that's our role. We
Stop
don't,
talking about me.
well, listen, I don't say nothing, but if you're feeling away, but and I'll actually speak just to clear the air on it. I did not necessarily have this experience. I had a great personal support. However, again, there have been times where, yes, that was the default. And at the end of the day, we don't often look at the youth as another human partner and collaborator. So it's almost like we just don't turn on the antenna, right? We're going about, we're seeing the youth. There's that, there's this, but we're not saying, all right, now let me stop, let me turn the antenna on, and also let me be a collaborative partner, let me be the listener, let me do the thing. And then when that happens, you start hearing. It's like when you buy a car and then all of a sudden you driving around now you see that car everywhere and you thought you was the first to have and you ain't seen it in a while. Right now, all of a sudden you're attuned to that car, your radar is open, you're being a lot more because it's something that's a lot more familiar to you. So now you see it everywhere. Once you turn your radar on to listening to youth, it's almost going to be overwhelming at first. You're going to hear and feel communications and senses in a way that you're not used to. And at first, it's going to be shocking. You might even be like, okay, wait a minute. Like Christine said, we all sat at the table like, whoa, wait a minute. You're right? It's jarring at first. So this is also something before we move on, I want to say is a skill to develop. Do not think this happens because you naturally just woke up on that day. It is something to be intentional about. It is something to plan for. It is something to put on your checklist. Before I say I am done and complete, did I do the steps to activate youth voice? Thank you very much all for sharing. We're going to move on so we can get through today's session because it's going to be a good one. I already feel it. It's already great already. Thank you. So, um, something I want you guys to take a moment and do, right? I want you to take 3 quiet minutes, and we'll probably do it more in two just for time's sake. And I want you to think about the following 2 boxes, okay? Think of a young person and think of a moment that you either just thought about it, it was one that you were thinking about in the 3, 2, 1, or it's a new one. I want you to take 2 quiet minutes to write what happened right before a student or a youth spoke up. This was a moment where I can remember they spoke up, right? They spoke up, and in that moment, what happened right before they did? What did you say or not say that made room for it? Again, the assumption that youth will speak up because they just want to by themselves isn't giving yourself enough credit. It's creating an environment and creating a space that will make them. So, if you could think of a time where they spoke up, what happened right before it, and what was the adult moves that made room for it? Or you can choose to write a time where saw that there was a student or a scholar or a youth that was noticeably quiet. Right the moment you gave them the floor and nothing came. You said, and trust me, as a teacher, it happens all the time. You call on a student, you call on a this, they get quiet, they don't want to answer. What was in the room that made silence safer than them speaking? So either choose a time where they spoke up, what happened right before, and what did you do to make it safe? Or think about a time that a student stayed quiet, and what do you think was in the room that made it safer to stay silent than to speak up? Take 2 quiet moments, and we'll come right on back. And I'm going to invite folks. I went to a Friends school, and there's a tradition in the Friends community called that Quakers do called meeting for worship, meaning you're sitting in a space of silence. But if you are moved to just speak or to say, you just stand up, you speak, you do, and you go back down. In these 2 minutes, as you're writing, if something is moving you to share it in the chat, please do so.
Cedric, can you see the chat or do you need me to read out?
I should be able to put it back up. I might need you to read some out because the window went away for me.
Okay. So we have Christine had offered that we talk over the youth in the room so they feel inferior.
Okay. example of making them stay quiet. We talk over them in the room. We're going to talk about that as well.
I believe folks are writing.
Yep, yep. Got my chat box back.
I got you, Christine.
She's like, I just want to make it very clear.
I'm a kid at heart, so you
Don't,
go where the kids are.
don't get it
I
twisted.
thought I thought Cedric was laughing at the hoopty prelude
I
He,
saw
he,
that.
he,
I just
he-
saw that. All right. Anyone want to share one of those moments? Anyone that has not yet shared that would like to share that may already be have some ideas down? A moment that a scholar or a student or a youth spoke up, or a moment that they stayed quiet. Anyone that would like to share? Go for it. Is it Megan?
Well, it's not Megan, but I'm signed on the
I,
account
I, I saw your face earlier. I just wanted to see if you would actually own up to it. Talk to me.
too, so let me throw her in there. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking of some personal stuff that, growing up, I've worked with youth before, earlier in my career as now adults, but I can remember times that I've tried to have more influence to having kids speak more. But a recent incident I can think of is having a youth playing on a piano and having to want to be heard and playing really well and but really too hard and attacking the piano. So my thing is, there's a soft pedal, the soft pedal there. There's a pedal that mutes you a little bit on the far left. Can you use that? Can you do that? He said he just didn't respond, just kept playing loud. So I just kind of let him go and had other people around him tell him the same thing. So once he heard collectively, this is starting to be a problem, maybe I won't listen to grandpa. I'll just hear from other people first. So just little things like that. And he knew it was a safe space to where he could express himself, and it's all about, I wanted him to express himself, but in a more appropriate way. That's all.
Thank you very much for sharing. I appreciate that. And again, you touched on something too, right? This idea of needing kind of a diversity of voices to support youth, right? Versus this kind of the grandpa voice or this person or that person. So later on in the session, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how none of this happens by yourself, and it's actually best practice for you to intentionally be looping somebody in specifically for accountability. But thank you very much for sharing that. I'm going to just kind of jump in and read some other ones. Maribel, I appreciate you talking about times that they spoke up. Maribel, if you would like to share, you can. I'll give you a few seconds to jump in. Otherwise, I'll kind of surmise what you said there. But most folks are really talking about speaking up in those opportunities. Maribel, you sharing with us? So I appreciate Maribel's contribution. She talked about inviting them to open up and share feedback to help us improve our performance to provide assistance. So this idea of allowing youth to be able to evaluate and assess our work, that's tough. That's a tough one. In order for us to be able to say, this is how we're going to come back and be better for you. So I can appreciate you providing that space and that vulnerability, right? This vulnerability to get good critical feedback to move forward. Tom always on it with the professional kind of put in, right? Again, with that background, that idea, we call it in education, we call it chunking information, right? Shorter directions, concrete, clear, concise directions. We talk about that often when working with youth. I can't even think it's just a youth tactic, I think is probably something that we need to do even more for adults. But the idea of chunking in smaller piece information is helpful. Once you overwhelm someone with information, they tend to shut down. I think we do that as adults as well. Um, all good, Maribel. I appreciate you. We got you. We got the message across. So thank you very much. All right. And then I'm going to go with this one. Susan, talk about speaking up. Assure that everyone is important. All ideas are valuable, right? This idea, it's kind of why we always would kind of start conversations with there's no stupid ideas, there's no stupid comments, and no stupid things, right? It's this idea of disarming fear in the room that's really, really important. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you. So earlier I talked about some things that would be helpful for identifying kind of like naming where a student or a scholar or a youth may be at. So four things that mute young people. We talked about what gets their voices stuck and why they get stuck. And we've named some of these. They've come up already. So this is kind of really us confirming that where our discussion was on track. So first thing, nothing real is on the table. Meaning I'm giving you, an option to give your opinion, but I'm not giving you any indication that that opinion will matter or make change. Right? And we do that often, right? We ask their opinion about something that we've already decided. We are all going to take a class trip to, uh, I don't know, Six Flags, right? Because that's just traditional. That's what we do. We knew kids. Kids been liking going to Six Flags for X, Y, and Z. And then we go and we ask kids their opinion about it, and they tell us they want to go to a VR arcade or they want to go to a food experience instead. And we're just like, yeah, but we already bought these tickets for Six Flags. So we ask for their opinion, and then we don't go to the VR experience or to the dining experience, and we tell them, oh, we appreciate it though. And then we make up all kinds of stuff. Oh, well, there was just too much of this, there was too much of that, or you know what, we appreciate it, but we were thinking about maybe for next year. We do all of that, but we didn't actually take what they gave us and then manifest it. And then we wonder why when the next trip comes about, they don't sign up, right? Adults fill in the silence. We talked about that. They weren't ready, right? We put them in the room without preparing them. They froze and won't be back. Again, overwhelming them, right? Not giving them information. We did at the conference, we did a youth panel and before the youth panel happened, we had a meeting. It was almost like an hour, maybe more, meeting with the youth before the conference, before they actually were in front of the panel. So by the time they got into the room, they were confident. They had an idea. I specifically didn't give them the exact questions because I wanted them to have a little bit of authenticity in the moment. But I told them, I literally broke down the themes and potential questions. We went through, talked about it all. We got to know each other. They became comfortable with each other in the space. So they were to operate as a unit. Again, that panel discussion was a great, beautiful, beautiful presentation from the youth. And it's because they were given a space to prepare ahead of time so that they can come in as the experts that they were. So again, it's preparing them and making sure that they're ready before we put them in a space to freeze. The other part, and we may mention this a little bit earlier, is that you can do everything you want. You can be the adult that they like. You can, get all the money out the budget. You can order the best food. You can do all the things. If you don't have a secondary stakeholder of trust for the youth to back you, you're going to have a hard time.
Mhm.
It says home, but I'm going to be very honest with you. As a career educator and a school administrator, as much as we would like to think that home is 100% of the time the stable stakeholder support, it's not. A lot of times it is. So we still reference home. Or home may be different for certain youth. Certain youth have found home in their churches, in their sports teams. Many do find it in homes. But whatever that secondary stakeholder is, if the person with the greatest amount of trust in the aftercare, when you're not with them, the care after you are with them, if they don't back you, something as simple as a statement of don't go there or don't do that or don't listen to them or that's not important will shut down everything. So, operating in a silo, whether you as an individual or your organization, and not getting collaboration and buy-in and partnership with another stakeholder for the youth, you're going to harm your initiative and harm yourself. Okay. So we got to make sure that these are things that we're avoiding. We're avoiding not putting anything on the table and making it real. We're avoiding over talking the kids and filling in the silence instead of giving them the space. We call it wait time. We talked about wait time in the last session. Not preparing them to be successful because no youth, I don't think really anybody likes to not show up, particularly in public spaces, successful. And then making sure that we're doing this outside the silo with another partner and stakeholder and collaborator. That's important to them. I am going to talk about these rungs, the activation ladder, right? So once we've identified the four things that we're saying or can get in the way or that can make a student or a youth or a scholar or a participant's voice stuck, now we got to identify where they are so we know where to help them and give them their support, right? So often I think the default and what we talked about, right, in that 3-2-1 activity where it was like, give us a time where a student said something that changed you and you let them know versus not, versus you stay quiet or a student's never or a scholar's never said anything to change your mind. That is where we operate at the level one of informed, right? We see scholars, we see youth, and we're just telling them, do this, do that, be here, this is what you do, you left foot, right foot, march. Two is asking them opinion, right? We talked about that on the last slide, right? On this last slide, we said nothing real on the table, asking their opinion, but nothing really coming of it. That's where two is. We ask them their opinion in a survey or a circle, but then we don't do anything with it. But at least we're asking them their opinion. We're not just directing them and telling them what they must do. You'll notice there is a separation line here on the activation ladder and between rung two and three. Between rung two and three, you'll see where there's a description of what you inform them or ask them to do as being decoration. Youth have, and we talked about this the first session too, have the greatest radar of authenticity on the planet. They will know if you're selling them tickets, BS, or if this is real. When you operate in levels one and two, it is superficial and it can be felt. I'm not going to say that it's not important sometimes. Sometimes I just need you to be informed because it's really important information. It's very serious. And I talked to you all about my making metrics in session one about my levels 1 through 5. This mirrors that very similarly. Once you get to level 3 with the youth that you're involved, where their input is visibly changing something and they can see the change. It doesn't mean you're adopting it completely, but at least when they say, you know what, I think that we should change the colors of our uniforms to something, 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 something. And the kids and the families and the community overwhelmingly agree with that. Now, you can either choose to keep the same uniform because it's 5 cents cheaper for here, or you like this vendor, or you can actually say, you know what? Because of cost, because of this, how about we actually start implementing the school color change in our logo and then we'll work to the uniforms? Or what about the sports attire? Or if you can do the uniforms, change the things out. But they're seeing something visibly changing. It can also be as simple as the food you're providing. All right. Listen, pizza is a home run a lot of times, but if you keep serving pizza enough, they're not going to want to come back no more. They're going to start eating before, more boxes going to get left, the whole thing. But believe it or not, this generation, they like bubble tea and sushi and all kinds of stuff that you would never think would have shown up on a kid's menu, right? So if your budget allows it, get creative with it. Have conversations. Maybe even change the venue of the meeting to a facility that they enjoy that has more options for kids, right? Rotate what the menu is and what the platform for that food is to make sure everyone's feeling included. Either way, if they speak about food or give feedback and then you're implementing that change, they feel ownership in the process. Now, food is a very basic low hanging fruit type of thing to do. But again, it's a start. It's an idea. It's an example of they say something, change happens. Level 4, they're deciding in a real way what happens, right? The decisions they make have real stakes. And I'm going to tell you right now, there is no, they always say, put your money where your mouth is. That's real. So when you're making decisions, including youth in the budget or giving them some access or ideas, even maybe even saying, hey, I want y'all to do this. Here is your budget, giving them a budget, that makes them feel amazing. When you give kids a budget, doing that and incorporating that makes them in a deciding phase. And then the fifth is they're leading it, right? Hey, here's your date. You want to do an event or something? Here's the date on the calendar. Put together the idea, bring the proposals, do the drafts. Y'all are leading this thing, right? That is where you ultimately want to be able to get youth to be. So when you're thinking about how you operate and how you guys are executing your work, think about if you're operating where your youth are more on a level one, two, or if you're getting them into an ownership space. And we talked about ownership, the prelude, the hoopty prelude we talked about before, right? The idea of what actually belongs to me, I'm going to do better at and perform at and to care more versus what is just dictated or given to me. That'll be the change. That's providing youth voice opportunity to ask their opinion versus activating it for change. Almost finished up and around here. Three moves that activate a young person's voice. Again, opening the door. We've talked about that. We're doing that, giving them the platform. I talked about creating committees where there are youth on it and giving those youth equal percentage power in certain aspects of decision making. We talked about handing over the pen, right? Them having the actual decision on what happens, what doesn't happen. Do they have the final say? Probably not. But do they have the say all the way up to the final say and then someone that's going to advocate for them? Maybe, and that's the difference. And then that's the back them up part, right? Once you give them the opportunity, once you say this is going to be the thing, I listen, it starts young. I know personally, as a small kid, I've always been about having a job. I've always been about trying to earn my own money and get my own little things. So I will never forget telling my parents, specifically my mother, that I wanted to do a lemonade stand. When I tell you the supermarket run, the pictures, getting the mix, getting my table, backing me up. And now I think about it, that might have been some of the origin of this hustle spirit I have today. But it was the idea that an adult, someone that cared, someone that actually said, I can make the decision and then just backed it up, right? Didn't tell me, well, you need to do less on the lemon or do this and maybe more fruit punch. And it has so much sugar. Who does lemonade anymore? Why don't we just do, no, 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 no. It was like, all right, this is what you want to do. And I want to back it. There's no harm. There's only progress. There's developmental things. It doesn't mean I'm the one doing it. That's the hardest challenge, being the adult and saying, I'm going to take my hands off it. That's the hardest thing there. When they see that they're backed up, you will get an ally, a partner, an ambassador that is more valuable than anything else you could have done in any other training. Families decide whether it sticks. And we talked about home and needing to make sure there's that backup, right? You see this a lot in education, particularly me. Parent teacher conferences were always a fun time. We're going to land the plane in about 10 minutes. Parent teacher conferences were always a fun time because that's where I got usually the most energetic parents coming through. And the reason would be is because they would go into the classroom to get their kid's report card. They talk to the teacher and they get the report card, find out their kid's failing or find out they have a low score or their behavior is off or something. Now, mind you, parent teacher conferences only happen 3 times a year, right? So the kid's been in school for 2 months, 3 months or so. The parent then comes with one idea or understanding, or at least maybe the idea that everything is just okay because no news is kind of good news in many situations. Then they get there to find out that things aren't right. And then they're upset. Why? We didn't bring them into the conversation. They didn't know what was coming. We didn't give them an opportunity to partner in the ownership process. I have found that the sooner you bring in families and homes and parents and guardians into any process with students and youth and scholars, the greater the outcomes. Number one, you've just got a lot more power behind you. whether it be decisions, whether it be support, right? When you and what you're doing with your initiative and your language matches up with the living room and the dining room and what's happening there, it's you're Voltroning up at that point, right? It's a massive level of support for students. Voltron, I am getting old. Invite them to see it, right? Don't just tell your kids to come on. Like, no. When you're planning events for youth, plan a parent function as well. This is odd. There's a strange analogy, but it works, I think. Being in New York City for as long as I was in New York City, specifically Brooklyn, one of the cool things to do on a Saturday or a Sunday is that all the dads in my Brooklyn neighborhood would get the kids, the newborns, the bjorn, babies, the strollers, and we'd all link up at a local spot and have like a nice little libation on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon or whatever have you, and kind of, congregate amongst each other. And what was really cool is that most of these bars in Brooklyn have children's play spaces in the corner. Now, I'm not saying go take your kids to a bunch of bars, but it's the idea of creating spaces where one can be handled and taken care of and the other be taken care of as well is super important. So if you plan a youth event, have something for the parents there too. If you're doing a workshop for kids, do a workshop for parents. If you're doing a youth event, maybe throw a small mixer for parents down the street or do a thing. That is one of the hugest selling points for my YMCA. Bring your kids to the YMCA. We'll watch your kids here. We'll do a thing here, and we'll also support you somewhere else in the space.
Yeah.
So if you're doing things with parents and for families, bring them into the space and give them activity and engagement as well. Allow them an opportunity to own the experience. Invite them in to see it. And then allow them to report back what they saw and did. Give your parents an opportunity to report what they did, what they felt, and what they could see change. When we don't incorporate those trusted adults in their community or their village, you lost them. You lost them. I can't. There were times for me in school that my school said one thing and my mother said something different. And guess who I listened to? Just being honest with you. Guess who I listened to? There was actually a whole meeting about it one time at school about Cedric going to listen to his mother when his mother says something versus the school, right? So understanding that that's an important stakeholder and that they have to be in the mix and they must be trusted. Okay. I would like a volunteer. Do we have anybody that would like to volunteer for 5 minutes before we wrap up with our last activity? I will pick three.
I'll volunteer.
Sounds good. Fantastic. So, everyone else, think about this as well. We're not going to take the full 15, but I need you to also think about this as well. All right. Think about a person, you can put their initials or not. What rung do you believe that they are on? That idea of one, being informed, two, just being kind of directed, asking for opinion, three, being heated, four, being them making decisions, and five, them leading. Think about what rung a person may be on that you're working with today or in your work right now. Okay. Think
Mhm.
about that. Next thing is, which of the four barriers do you think may be muting them or maybe supporting them? I understand it may not be muted, but if they're on 1 through 5, what of the four barriers or the things that we talked about may be stopping them from speaking up and moving forward or maybe propelling their work? And then the next part I want you to think about is what door, what decision, what backup, okay, is there to support continuing that work with that student, but to make them speak up, okay? And then the last piece is the single decision that you are going to hand over to that youth. Think of a youth, what rung they might be on in your work. Think about something that may be a barrier for their voice and for their participation. Name a very real backup that you may have to try to get their voice activated if it's not. Lastly, what's the decision you're going to hand over to them to give them power in the work? Start whenever you feel comfortable.
All right. So the young individual, I'm going to keep with the same one I identified earlier.
Yep.
So we're going to call her B.
Yep.
Um, they're a four teetering a five, right? Um, I think if I'm diagnosing, I think there's too many hens in the hen house.
Mm,
So they're getting bombarded from this agency, this organization, and there's no common thread.
mm.
So they're getting lost in, I can do it for this, but then I can't do it for this one, but then I have to alter it to this one. So there's no level playing field.
Okay.
What's my next one?
What's the
What door, what decision, what backup? I think we as the adults in the room that are facilitating need to set a basis. And um, I know Tom and I in our programming have become quite cognizant of this issue, and we're leading them ahead of time to set them up for success instead of just throwing them in the mix and having them fail.
and
Uh,
get the decision that you and you because you and Tom already do this. Think of something bigger, something
Different.
even different, but even stretching yourself more than what the comfort has been. What is something that you're going to place in the hands of youth for them as the individuals or the group to make the decision on? What are you comfortable handing over now that you're understanding a little bit more about the power of activation?
I mean, I think we collectively come up with great ideas, but we're also old. So I want to see from their lens, and I want to give them the power to say, we don't have this, this is what we need, and them feel comfortable enough to be able to tell us that.
Would you allow a group of youth to, on their own, top to bottom, choosing all the speakers, choosing the platform, choosing it all? Would you allow youth by themselves to create a session for your next conference?
I absolutely would.
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
I'm talking it all.
I would.
It's
I don't
in
know
the chat.
about Tom, but I would.
I just put it in the chat.
But in the chat, that isn't right in this law, right? So, and that's a big one, right? And I'm stretching you guys because y'all already, do this well. And thank you for stepping up and modeling for today's session. But yeah, right. So first of all, identifying, and this goes to what Tom was saying, smaller chunk of the information. You got all these agencies, and all the separate agencies all have their own separate priorities and agendas, right? So they're all trying to make sure it all gets done, right? With this singular youth initiative or this thing, right? That can be a barrier. That can be something that can kind of be locking them out, right? The backup to that is you saying, hey, if this is not going to self kind of streamline itself, we as the adults need to create, and as you said, a base, right? What's the singular message, singular voice, singular access point for the youth and what we're going to let them do, and with a little bit of nudging and volunteering, you guys are going to let a group of youth create top to bottom who the speakers are, the whether it's the 90-minute session or a 2 hour session, right? What the vibe, what the topic, let them create a session and let them again do it, creating their own base with the support of all of those agencies versus all those agencies trying to tunnel in and tell them exactly what to do. I thank you so much for that example. I thank you very much for that. I'm going to, this is, I can actually make sure that you guys get like a small activity sheet. Here's a few quick questions and points about kind of thinking about what gets a scholar or a student or you stuck that you guys can kind of go through. We've actually hit all of these, so you guys discuss them all as well. And the things that we just learned, right? Identifying the rung that the student or the scholar or the youth is on, figuring out what that decision is. And for you all, I'd push you right in the next month, right? Let's get started. What does that look like? And then what's the honest reason you haven't started it yet, right? Is it the fear of being an adult and just not knowing? Is it the fear of being humbled? Is it just not having your radar on? Whatever those things are, do me a favor. Take 20 seconds and then we're done. And I want you to put into the chat right now, what do you think an honest reason has been as an adult for why you haven't started a thing with youth just yet? What's a reason that as an adult you feel you have not started a thing with youth yet? 10 more seconds. Ooh, ooh, good one. Good ones. Beautiful, beautiful. That's real. That's real. I appreciate you all. Thank you very, very much. I wanted to just leave you all with this thing and this thinking for yourself. Whenever you are going about making final decisions on what to move forward with and how to do it with, you think about this. By who will it happen? I will hand a real decision about also to who and what, and I'll get them ready by, again, making sure they're prepared, making sure you're identifying the decision, identifying the person and who they are. I want to thank you all for hanging in there. We did great. We did it. We hit the hour mark just about for this for my space of my time. There's going to be more. I'll make sure that I send something to kind of help tie a little bit of this together. Last time there was like a supplementary graphic organizer you guys had. I'll put one of those together and I'll send it to you guys if that's okay to share out to the participants. And thank you very much. These platforms virtually are a little different than the in person, but you all were phenomenal, really engaged with us. And I thank you very, very much.
Cedric, thank you. And for those of you, if you can stick around for just one moment more, I just have two things I would need to share with everyone. But if you wouldn't mind, could you please help me? Tom has already started us off. If you can give kind of Cedric something with the emojis or whatever you got going on to express our appreciation. Rick, thank you for bringing your expertise, for your experience, and your authentic engagement with us all. I truly appreciate that. I learned, as I always do, whenever we have these kind of sessions. So thank you for that. Um, if you stop sharing, hold on, let me do
I
this
stopped
real
there. Yeah.
quick. I will
There we
replace
go.
this. There you go. Hold on one second. I just need to offer this real quickly for you all. Perfect. Let's see. Uh, And if you're looking on the screen, if you all don't wouldn't mind, please, we need your feedback for this session. If you can take your phone and put it up to the screen and kind of pull that, we need this. Next week, we will be with Dr. Ivan Juzang. Folks, you guys will be in for a remarkable session. That one's planned for 75 minutes. And what it will engage with is the uh, integration of protective factors with family and father engagement is going to be the focus on next week. And I really want you to kind of spread the word on this. I want to thank you all for being a part of this particular session. And I am going to extend my gratitude again to our remarkable partners there at the state. Regina, I don't know if you have any closing remarks that you would want to offer.
No, just thank everybody for coming.
You're remarkable. And so thank you all so very much. You'll receive more information this week about next session. The next session's coming up, and we will see you all real soon. So glad to see everybody. Cedric, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You. Have a great day.
Take care. God bless.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Safe travels.
Take care, Joe.
Too. I like it.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Take care.
We grandparents got to stick together, man.
Sweet.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Look forward to it. All right.
Indeed.
Take care. Thank you, Seth.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Thanks, Joe.
You too.
She might have hopped off. So hold on. Remove.
Hold on. You can stop and there you go.